afternoon, MCPS staff and Board of Education members. My name is Lisa Klein, and I chair the MCCPTA Safe Technology Committee. I have been in receipt of hundreds of messages regarding the rocky return to learning, and I've attached 14 pages of them to my written testimony. All of them have to do with excessive screen time. It's not an overstatement to say that our kids are suffering from too much screen time. Their very interest in learning is in jeopardy. But it's not just the screens. It's the deluge of apps behind the screens that are not evidence-based and that gamify education. Fortunately, we know what to do. 1 year ago, Maryland law tasked MSDE to create healthy screen time guidelines. This includes screen breaks every 20 minutes to stretch, refocus, and blink. I urge you to recirculate this best practices document to teachers as soon as today. We also need books. Reading is the most tried, true, and equitable method of learning. No passwords, plugs, help desk, or blue light glasses required. When have we ever heard pediatricians warn against too much reading, like they warn about screen time? Reading also relieves stress, so if ever there were a time for books, it's now. Bring out paper and pencils. Workbooks have not been delivered universally as promised, and some are even being used with the Chromebooks. So I'm not sure what the point is there. As you know, cognition and retention improve greatly when kids, all of us in fact, handwrite our notes, questions, and papers. Another solution worth exploring is outdoor classrooms. In 1918, this was a successful strategy during the Spanish flu, and now there is a lot of enthusiasm in our county for this. I spoke with greenschoolyards.org, and they have assembled an emergency team of landscape designers and educators to create pro bono blueprints, especially for Title I schools, and they're offering to consult with MCPS. Finally, independent study projects. Let's turn our homes into workshops. Let kids build, write, design, create for a grade. They'd simultaneously build essential life skills, such as creativity and independence. And why not have something to show that's tangible for this unique time in history? My final note is just a few sentences that I'll share with you that I received Friday from a parent, and I thought it was especially poignant. She says about her sixth grader, "Not a day goes by that my child does not beg me to stop the computer learning." She says she feels she can recover from COVID, but not from the impact of all the forced screen time. Thank you all very much.
And I'm a parent in Montgomery County, and I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about some really important things that I have been learning. All of our students are using internet way more than we ever imagined that they would be, and there are best practices for doing it safely without using the Wi-Fi. According to the New Jersey Education Association article, Minimize Health Risks from Electronic Devices specifically recommends using wires and cables such as this Ethernet adapter, USB to Ethernet. Totally simple, very easy. My kids do it themselves. They've been doing it for years in school as well as now at home. The New Jersey Education Association published in their article a list of things that people can do to help reduce the dangers of brain damage and other health risks from Wi-Fi. For example, keeping your device away from your body. This is really important. If your kids are laying in bed, they're just sitting there with a device on their body. Carrying their phones off of their body. Using all of your devices hardwired that can connect to the internet. That's where this comes in. We all used to use Ethernet cords, so it's just really doing what we know, and what we know is that that is 100% safer. We want to make sure that printers, projectors, and other kinds of boards are wired and plugged in. Hardwired phones as opposed to cell phones, and putting your devices, and that can be laptops as well as cell phones, on airplane mode, which suspends the emission of EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. So if you disable your Bluetooth, your GPS, etc., you are not continuously exposing your body to harmful wireless radiation. So I am calling on the Board of Education in Montgomery County to please step up and be sure that all families have this knowledge that I found, so that they can make informed choices about connecting to the internet more safely and honestly much more reliably. We never get kicked off our internet. We can have multiple kids using the internet at the same time when we simply use wires and turn off the Wi-Fi. So this is how I plug in my Chromebook. I simply take the Ethernet cord, which we're all familiar with, right into this adapter. Simple, inexpensive. I plug it right into the Chromebook. Voila. It will automatically say Ethernet connection found.
All the kids are on screens for hours every day, starting even with the kindergartners. And most children and their parents are using Wi-Fi in order to connect to the internet. Now, I firmly believe that every child should have access to education and every family should have connections to the internet. However, it is important that they not receive wireless radiation at the same time. Companies can fix this by providing wired internet access for all families. It does not have to be that kids are using mobile hotspots or using Wi-Fi. This wireless radiation is linked in published, peer-reviewed science to a multitude of health impacts, which include DNA damage, changes to reproduction, impacts to the brain, and of course cancer. For most of these effects, we wouldn't notice them for years and years. And right now we're talking about hours every day of exposure. I would like to ask that the board take action to ensure that students have Ethernet cords and that they work with the companies who are donating hardware and software, that they donate safe Ethernet as well as Ethernet adapters. Wired, non-wireless connections are faster and safer and more secure. When a child is sitting in front of an iPad or a laptop, that device is emitting wireless frequencies which the body is absorbing. So I understand that it might seem highly inconvenient, and how could anyone raise this in the midst of all the changes that we're making? But actually, it's the perfect time to raise this issue, because right now, when our health is so important, we need to make sure that we're taking every step. When the county looked into this years ago, they did radiation measurements that compared the levels in the school to the FCC safety thresholds. However, the FCC limits are not protective, not by a long shot. I'm not talking 10 to 20 times. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of times too high to protect our health. There also is inaccurate information that is up on the MCPS website, and it needs to be corrected. Our organization is actually in historic legal action against the FCC for having these guidelines from 1996, not changing them, and refusing to look at the latest science or to listen to scientists. There are literally hundreds of scientists who are stating that exposure needs to be reduced. Please listen to the scientists.
Next, we will hear from Stacy Lynch and Margaret Bower.
Hello, I am Stacy Lynch.
I am Margaret Bauer. We are the Elementary Council on Teaching and Learning co-chairs.
We want to thank the board for its hard work during this extraordinary time. We know that you have the best interest of children at the heart of your deliberations, and we appreciate your focus on the safety of those in our school system. However, we must bring to your attention the challenges that educators are facing to provide equity and access for all students.
As the school year started, we realized we were working many hours beyond our duty days to meet the needs of our students. We heard the same from colleagues. So we invited elementary educators to complete a brief Google form that asked, what school do you serve? What is your grade level or position? And how many hours beyond your duty day did you work the week of September 6th?
We were shocked to receive 1,552 responses from every elementary school in MCPS and even 66 responses from middle and high schools. This speaks to how much educators needed to tell their stories about wanting to meet the needs of their students and the numerous difficulties they are facing. We ask that you consider the following. 283 educators spent up to 10 additional planning hours, 590 between 10 and 20 hours, 502 between 20 and 40 hours, 93 between 40 and 90 additional hours over the course of 1 week.
Here's some comments we received from educators. Quote, many hours are spent training, teaching myself how different applications work, which will enhance engagement for my students. Quote, to be expected to teach the regular curriculum with very little modification to our youngest learners is disrespectful to us as well as to our students. We are not providing an adequate or appropriate education to them right now. Quote, the amount of kids' screen time is too much at the elementary level, end quote.
Some themes became apparent in the comments. Issues with technology, including the Synergy platform, and the inability of county-issued Chromebooks to handle the capabilities we need. Having 2 new curricula at most elementary schools.
Adapting all the curricula into the online format, which is like translating everything into 2 languages in which you are not yet fluent. Lack of planning time due to meetings and troubleshooting the tech issues of our families. Sheer exhaustion as a result of the above.
It is critical that all students have equal access to quality learning during physical school closure. It is also essential that the people who care for our students are also cared for. Educators are struggling to meet the needs of all students given current conditions.
Educators can make virtual learning successful. We have worked hard to make the fall semester engaging for our students and families. Our educators are committed to doing the best for our students so they can be well physically and emotionally and continue to learn safely at home. However, the conditions under which we are working now are not sustainable.
We look forward to working with MCPS on how to ensure that educators can meet the needs of their students during virtual learning. We know there are ways to alleviate the pressure on educators that will allow us to serve our scholars safely at home until Dr. Gales and other officials have determined that it is safe for everyone to return to school.
So the Board of Education, Superintendent Smith, on behalf of the Black and Brown Coalition and those who we serve, we want to say thank you for everything you have done in order to make MCPS a more equitable system for all students. Last year, in response to the inequities shown by the ERF report and in response to the realities experienced on the ground by Black, Brown, and poor families in Montgomery County, the coalition asks you to please pledge to support 4 asks. Ask number 1 had to do with access to rigorous courses for Black, Brown, and poor students. Second was access to effective and diverse teachers. The other one was about access to effective and diverse leaders. And there was a 4th ask about accountability. Those asks were really crucial then, are even more important now during COVID times, and will be even more important during recovery of learning loss after COVID ends. In a letter we sent to you a few months ago, we congratulated you on all your efforts, but also asked you to please do more, to please not stay just with the efforts that we made thus far. We have to work together to continue to eliminate inequities that have been caused by decades and decades of systemic racism, which have been exacerbated by COVID.
As a result of the pandemic, we have identified other areas of inequities where our Black, Brown, and low-income students need us to do even more. The gaps over the last 6 months have only widened. We need additional support for students and families that are struggling with technology. Parents that are not tech savvy need more support that is culturally competent and helps them with supporting their children during the virtual learning. We also ask you to have MCPS provide outreach proactively to students that have not been able to successfully re-engage with their schools in a way that virtual learning benefits them. We also ask in the area of food distribution. We would encourage MCPS to continue to look at expanding the number of sites and the hours in which food can be distributed to families in need. Parents cannot leave during the course of the middle of their workday, in all cases, to seek the meals, provide the meals for their children. Lastly, recovery of learning loss has got to be a priority for Black, brown, and low-income children. The coalition, working with private partners, have been able to stand up the first educational equity and enrichment hub at an elementary school in Montgomery Village, starting September 14th. We encourage you to work with us to expand access throughout the county, as this is a vital need for many families that have been highly impacted by the virus. And lastly, we look forward to seeing you at our Coalition Virtual Accountability Forum, October 15th at 7 p.m., where we will follow up on the pledges made a year ago. And we will take a look at where we've made progress and also where there's work still to be done. We thank you for all that you've done and look forward to seeing you at that event.
About some of the concerns with the technology. I have been looking into blue light glasses and the effectiveness of them. My daughter has them and she says that they are lifesavers in terms of her being on her computer doing all that work. I ordered some online to try them out. And I've had conversations with Council Member Andrew Friedson and some others. I've been looking into potentially finding a private investor who might want to sponsor purchasing these for our students. I have, like I said, done some research and I've gotten an amount, a rough amount on what it would cost for retail. But myself and someone who was interning with me this summer have reached out to some of the companies that make them to see if we could get them at a more wholesale price. So I'm mentioning it to you because I will share with you the costs and stuff. I don't know if it's something you want to have conversations with the council about. I know that a lot of the information seems new and so maybe not conclusive. I don't know, but I just thought in terms of, I do have concerns about how much the screen time and how much we're hearing from parents and teachers about their concerns with screen time. So it just might be a little something that we could look into doing to help provide one measure of safety for headaches, blurry visions. There's a long list of potential concerns that the blue light glasses are, supposedly help with. So I'll forward you that information. I just wanted to mention to you that Councilmember Friedson and I have had multiple conversations about it, and it might be something worth looking into.
So thank you. At this time, what we'll do is we'll move on to the next item of the agenda.